Boomer Sooner. We're about 7 games into the season. We just passed the bye week for the Sooners heading into Iowa State. We got to talk about the expectations that we should have for the team for the rest of the season, what would be a good ending for this team, and more. But before we do, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comments below. What are you guys looking for from the Oklahoma Sooners for the rest of the season going into next season? All right. So the Sooners are now 4-3, sitting at the 7-game mark. You just now passed your bye week. You're heading into game week against Iowa State, where you're having to travel to Ames. Now, the good news for the Sooners is this game is no longer on a Thursday night. It's going to be on a Saturday morning. Thursday night really felt like a trap game for me for Oklahoma, and it potentially could have been another loss, and a time where you really can't afford any more losses if you're the Sooners. So far this season, we've seen what the Sooners are going to look like with Dillon Gabriel and without Dillon Gabriel. So, obviously going into this one, I think the number one thing that we have to look for the Oklahoma Sooners is staying healthy, right? You cannot afford to have Dillon Gabriel go down once again and potentially be having to look up at that backup situation where I guess we don't have enough confidence in Nick Evers or General Booty, which is kind of sad to me because I thought we brought those guys in. I thought they had enough confidence. So maybe the coaching staff is seeing something that we don't see. But we definitely can't put ourselves in a position where we're putting Davis Bevel out there and then not having confidence in him at all to throw the ball. So you have no confidence in any of your quarterbacks in that back room from what it looks like to us. Dillon Gabriel has to stay healthy. He's thrown for a little over 1,600 yards this year, 13 touchdowns, and 1 interception, which the 1 interception you could say wasn't necessarily all his fault. So it's not like he just blatantly threw it to the defender. He has been sacked 10 times, which has gotten a lot better as the games have gone on. The offensive line has played tremendously better for him. He's about 65% completion percentage. Dillon Gabriel is the key for the offense on this team. That's nothing new that I'm telling you guys. Everybody knows this. So, getting into it, we talked about it. The offensive line. The offensive line needs to be able to continue to improve, and we need to continue to see the offensive line dominate and not make mistakes. We cannot, like, when our offensive line is going to go out there and they're going to make mistakes, kind of like what we saw Texas do at Oklahoma State, it hinders your offense. It sets you back. We can't afford that. And the offensive line has been playing tremendously well, in my opinion, over the past several weeks, especially with having a quarterback that hasn't been super serviceable out there. They've kind of not been thrown in the spotlight. And I really want to see Antoine Harrison really step up here because Antoine Harrison is a junior. He can return, which I would, if I'm Bill Bedenbaugh and I have these guys on the offensive line, I am pushing them. If they're not a senior and about to graduate out, I am pushing them to stay next year because this offensive line for Oklahoma could be really, 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 really good. You've got a guy like Antoine Harrison, who everybody was excited about. Wanye Morris, who I believe is a senior. Yes, he is a senior, and I think he can return. I think he's still got the COVID year. I still think he can return. Then you got McCade Matire. I expect him to be better next year. It doesn't look like he has been as healthy as maybe we would want him to be. And then you've got the 2 freshmen, Jacob Sexton and Jake Taylor, right? I want those guys to be able to continue to develop under some of these more experienced guys like Antoine Harrison, McCade Matire, Chris Murray, or Wanye Morris. Now, I don't think Chris Murray is eligible to return next year. If somebody knows anything on that, please jump down in the comments below and let me know because I'm not 100% sure on that. But ultimately, I do think the offensive line is a huge key for this offense because we know that Eric Gray is going to go out there and get his, right? He's been doing it all season, and he's going to continue to do it. He's got 695 yards on 97 carries, 5 touchdowns. Just in the rushing, he's averaging about 7.2 rushing yards a game. If the offensive line can continue to create holes for him, you're going to see Eric Gray continue to have a great season and Javonte Barnes be able to continue to step up as Javonte Barnes ramps up into next season. I personally don't expect Eric Gray to stay. If he stays, tremendous. And then we get to the receivers, right? What should we expect from those receivers on offense? Well, I think it kind of goes both ways with the receivers and the quarterback. We need Dillon Gabriel and Marvin Mims to really get together, really create some more chemistry before the end of the season and be able to connect on some of these deep passes. We've seen that earlier in the year where they were able to do that, and it's kind of started to fall off a little bit in terms of just Dillon Gabriel being able to accurately get that ball to them. I do think maybe it is, again, it's the rust from being hurt last season, then he was out. I think it'll get better, but that is something that I think they need to fix starting against Iowa State. You've got to be able to go out there and launch that ball to Marvin Mims and give him those opportunities, because Marvin Mims can go up there and grab those catches and come down with them. You just got to get them to him. Braden Willis, Theo Easton, Jalil Farouk, and Drake Stoops. Those guys, they've been doing their job. So I really don't think they need to do anything else other than continue doing what they're doing. I would like to see the staff put out Jaden Gibson a little bit more. I want to see more out of him. And I think a lot of other fans do too. I think he has a lot of potential. And you put him out there, he's going to be able to go up and grab it a lot of the time. So we'll see what he's able to do. We don't need to get into the kicking game because Zach Schmidt is doing really well this season. But as far as the defense, so you have David Agwebu with 62 total tackles this year, and he's been pretty solid for the defense. You know, I know a lot of people aren't too sure about him, but he's out there playing a leadership role in the defense, putting guys where they need to be. Guys come and ask him, hey, you know, he's doing all the right things. But I think the keys for the defense are you got to play R. Mason Thomas more. I think he's one of your best edge rushers, if not your best edge rusher on this team. And he's a true freshman. We're seeing a lot of really good things from him. And this is a guy that when we got late in this class, a lot of people just overlooked it because he wasn't a top 100 player. But no, like R. Mason Thomas, like he's an X factor and a game changer. And he's one of those guys that you're potentially going to be able to see make a difference over the next 3 or 4 years for the Sooners. Danny Stutzman. Danny Stutzman also has 62 sacks. He has actually 34 by himself, and then he has 1.5 sacks. I want to see Danny Stutzman be a little bit more aggressive and get a little bit more tackles. That's saying a lot because Danny's been a baller this year. But if Danny and David could just complete those tackles a little bit more, if they could just go out there and not miss as much, you'd be seeing a completely different defense from both of those linebackers. We talked about R. Mason Thomas, but I want to see Ethan Downs be able to get into the backfield a little bit more and be able to get to the quarterback. Ethan Downs is a tremendous talent, right? And we saw what he was able to do after having an off season with Schmitty. He got a lot bigger. The dude got swole, right? Here's the deal. If Ethan Downs can continue to be aggressive, because here's the thing, I am not doubting his aggressiveness at all. This man has been aggressive and has continued to be aggressive since day one. And I think that's something that you cannot teach people. It's something you can't teach. They just have it or they don't. And Ethan Downs has it. He's an X factor. If he can get to the quarterback just a little bit more and provide a little bit more pressure, I think it's going to provide Reggie Grimes and Jeffrey Johnson and Jonah Lalulu and all those other guys on the interior. It's going to give them more opportunities to be able to get back there as well. It's going to be able to make it to where that pocket is collapsing. And so we'll be able to see if Ethan Downs is able to do anything like that. I'm curious to see that. Additionally, Jalen Redmond, I feel like he's had a okay season. I want to see him finish really strong, right? I want to see him continue to go out there and be the 5-star defensive lineman that we expected him to be when he came to the University of Oklahoma. And then I want to see more out of the freshmen that we've already seen hit the field, but what we know what we can get out of them. Gentry Williams, he was the top-ranked player that we had in our class. I want to see him out there a little bit more. I want to see him be able to get some reps, and I don't want to see garbage time reps. I want to see him be able to get reps and, develop a little bit more before next season, because ultimately I think the secondary is probably your biggest pain point on this defense. Like Oklahoma's pass defense, I don't feel like is good at all. And a lot of people will tell you that. So let's get him out there. Let's see what he can do. I want to see more of Robert Spears-Jennings. Everybody echoes that one. We all know he's really special at 6'1", 195. We know it. Everybody else knows it. I'm not going to harp on that. Same thing with Kanak. We all want to see him out there. Kobe McKenzie needs to stay redshirted. We all know it. He needs to get built a little bit more, but that dude's going to be a Hosh Johnson when he's able to start playing again. We've seen Grayson Halton go out there a couple times. I'm curious to see what this man can provide. So let's maybe see Grayson Halton get out there and get some touches if some of these other guys that are starting and rotating are not playing up to the level that we thought they would be. Let's see what Grayson Halton can do in some of those game time decisions. I want to see more of Jaden Rowe. And then that's really about it on the defense. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, the defense just needs to be able to tackle better. If that's all that they can improve on throughout the rest of the season, as an Oklahoma fan, you have to be excited about that. So, sitting at 4-3, you had the 3 straight losses against Kansas State, TCU, and Texas. Where do they go from here? So, you have Iowa State this weekend at Iowa State. You have Baylor at home, at West Virginia, Oklahoma State at home, and Texas Tech. You got 5 games there. Here's my deal. I look at this schedule, and I think Oklahoma could, at best, go 5-5. At best, they could go 5-5. If you're Oklahoma, you have to be able to finish, I think, 4-5 at 4 out of your 5 games. I don't know where that loss comes. I honestly, I hope it doesn't come to Oklahoma State or Baylor. I don't want to see us lose at home. But ideally, I think you can go on the road and beat Iowa State, West Virginia, and Texas Tech. So one of those losses is probably going to come from Baylor or Oklahoma State. I think it's more than likely to come from Oklahoma State. So the question is, can the Sooners go out there and beat the teams that they need to be able to beat? I told you, on the road, Iowa State, West Virginia, Texas Tech. Those are the teams that they should beat. Those are 3 games that they should win. This Baylor and Oklahoma State game, these are at home. You should be favored to win those games at home, especially if you go out there and take care of business against Iowa State and West Virginia. You should be able to win those games. And you should be favored. So, at best they could go 5-5, but I think at worst they need to go 4-5. They need to be able to at least win 4 of those games. You need to become bowl eligible. Not because us Sooner fans want to see them go to a bowl game. It's just the importance of having those extra practices preparing for a bowl game. Because here's the deal. We're going to know by the time that bowl game comes around who's going to be here and who's not, right? I hope Marvin Mims stays, but if he decides to declare for the draft, he probably is not playing in that bowl game. He's probably going to take it off and prepare for the draft, which is smart on his part. Same thing for Theo Weiss. And I think those are 2 X factors, because in this class for 2023, we've heard all the talk about Anthony Evans. Everybody knows we're getting him. You've also got Jaquez Petaway. So there's 2 wide receivers that would replace Mims and Weiss. I want to be able to know is we're getting Keon Brown. Are the 3 that we have in this class, and I think there's a preferred walk-on, I think his name's Troy Brown, if I remember correctly, Troy Brown. Somebody might need to drop down in the comments and correct me on that if I'm wrong. Are those 3 going to be enough? Because if not, you have Jackson Arnold's teammate from Denton Guyer, who's currently committed to Incarnate Ward, who we've had on this show before, Landon Sides, who I think is definitely a option to go bring on as a preferred walk-on as well and have him earn that scholarship. And I think it'd be a great asset to the team. I mean, he's been a great asset for Jackson Arnold and Denton Guyer. And like I said, we're going to be able to find out a lot about who's going to be here and who's not when that bowl game comes around. So I think being able to go to a bowl game is really important because 1, you're getting those practices. And 2, here's the important thing about those practices. So you get, I think, 13 or 14 extra practices. And if let's say Theo Weiss, Marvin Mims opt out. Let's say Braden Willis, he opts out because he's going to go to the draft, so he's preparing. You're going to really open up the opportunity for guys like Farouk and Jaden Gibson and some other people to step up, right? You're going to give them opportunities to step up and get reps in a real-time game. Now, we might not win the bowl game, but they're going to get real-time reps against a real-time team in a bowl game. And then it allows you to go out there and figure out what you need to finish this class strong at the wide receiver position. Right now, I think they're pretty deep at the wide receiver position. They got a lot of guys on the roster that are playing wide receiver. So the question is, how is that going to finish at the end of the season? It's important that OU goes to a bowl game. There's a lot that you can learn about your team going into that bowl game and getting the extra practices. So I think OU this year either finishes 9-4 or 10-3. That's where I think they realistically finish up. If OU doesn't win those 3 games that I talked about on the road, Iowa State, West Virginia, Texas Tech, and then beat either Baylor or Oklahoma State at home, it's got to be a disappointment. Because we've seen what this team can do with Dillon Gabriel at the helm, right? Their offense is explosive. So there's no reason why you can't go out there and dominate on the offensive side of the ball and win games like we have in the past, right? Let the defense just improve on their own by going out there week by week. But the offense, we know what they can do. So let's see if they can continue to do that and continue to be able to win games. Ultimately, it's the Sooners. We love our boys. Whether they can't win another game for the rest of the season, which, gosh, I hope that doesn't happen, or whether they win out and go 10-3. We love them regardless. But I think it is crucial to go to a bowl game. It is crucial to get those extra practices. It's crucial to know what's going to benefit your team and what's not. So go ahead, jump down in the comments. Let me know what you guys are thinking about the Oklahoma Sooners in 2022. What do you expect from them for the rest of the season? What do you think their record will be?